everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Notorious POD. I'm kind of thrilled about this one. This is typically my interview show where I actually try and have a really good in-depth conversation with a guest who's typically an expert in something. And in this case, I thought I would bring on one of my dear friends who's like an expert in everything. So let's just bring him on right now. Mr. Robinson, how the hell are you?
How are you?
I'm great, man. We've been wanting to do something like this for a while, but we just never.
I think we did the economy and institutional investors in the economy maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was too long ago. We always like talking shit about all kinds of topics, and I was like, let's just record a podcast.
We're literally doing what we do on the phone and
exactly. But we're just gonna have it in public, and hopefully people will find it, at least entertaining, if not useful and beneficial. Yeah. But before we get started, for anybody who doesn't know, give a quick intro.
Sure. Keith Robinson, Chief Strategy Officer for Nexthome, national residential real estate franchisor.
Aren't you guys like the number one franchise in all of real estate and all that?
Well, everyone's number one in something, but we did recently win, again, the number one franchise for franchisee satisfaction across all sizes, all categories. So not just for real estate, not just for smaller franchisees, but all categories, we were number one. So that actually, truthfully, we're not here to talk about that, but it's the one we're most proud of because you can't buy it.
Yeah.
It's truly the blind, anonymous survey of your membership. They tell you how you're doing, and that is how you are scored. So it's earned. It isn't given. Yeah. And we're pretty proud of that one.
And by the way, I forgot to mention before we got on that I poured myself some bourbon in your honor, but I forgot to tell you to get yours. So
rude. I've got water, so
I'm gonna go with water too, because it would be rude to just me.
Yeah, super rude. You should have led with that.
I know, it's my bad. It's totally my bad.
All good.
All right, so I think we're gonna argue about all kinds of different shit because that's one of the cool things. Like we have different opinions on a bunch of topics. Yeah. But we can talk about it, and
you usually think the world's going to end.
Well, and like you always tell me, you just think my timing is off,
Yeah, but, we tend to disagree on pace.
That's correct. Right. And I think you're probably usually right. But as a result, one of the things I wanted to point out was you do a lot of economics research. Yeah. And I know there's something you get out to, your franchisees, people over social. So again, we talked about like 6 months ago. What's your latest? Like, what do you see happening in the housing market, overall economics? The taper rates. What's your latest take?
It's funny to do today, right? With the volatility that we've seen in the stock market. Yeah. But let's bifurcate for a second the stock market and just talk about the housing market. Yeah. So I think the underlying fundamentals of the housing market are very healthy. Inventory is still relatively low. Demand is still relatively high. The biggest issue that we're going to see going into and through 2022 is affordability. Mm-hmm. Those are the big headwinds for residential real estate. You've got appreciation rates that have gone bananas for the last 2 years, and there are still going to be appreciation, just not as much as we've had, right? So you'll see a decrease in the rate of increase reported like a drop, right?
Right. So what's your personal prediction? And again, I know neither of us are trained economists.
Yeah, I think we'll see low single digit appreciation.
Low single digit appreciation.
Yeah, really? Low single digit. Yeah, 9%.
Okay,
something
9.
Like that.
That's not low single digit. Low single digits.
Sorry. Yeah, high single digit.
High single digit. Okay, so 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 or 9% appreciation. Could be 6. It really there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the next 90 days that I think rates are going up. How high, how fast, right? Fed's going to do increases. How much, how fast? So there's a lot that could change in the next 90 days that will impact affordability. And if demand goes down, the demand needs to go down a little, right? There's that old adage, the cure for high prices is high prices, right? Meaning when prices get too high, people slow down. You don't think
yes,
so?
I mean, no, yes, of course, as a general rule, yes. But
Yeah.
so here's why I bring this up, and I think again,
Let's mark the timer. It took us 42 seconds to disagree. So this is good. This is good.
no, the reason because this is I feel like I'm just hanging out there to ready to
No,
be wrong
yeah,
because I have
it's
strong
good.
opinions, weakly held. But my
Yes.
strong opinions at this moment is I don't think the Fed's gonna take. I don't think they're gonna be successful. So you're baking in like the 3, maybe 4 rate increases that the Fed has said that they were looking at doing this year, right?
I think they want to. Whether
Right.
or not they'll be able to get away with that will depend on how the economy performs.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So if they can't raise rates, then there's no way we're gonna see single digit home price appreciation, right?
Why are you correlating those two?
Well, if you can't raise rates, then mortgage rates can't go up, which means, right? So here's the thing. I think the Fed's going to raise rates
Okay.
one time in March. And
Okay.
then I think the stock market will take a shit.
I agree with that.
I think they will fall off the cliff and the world economy will be like start teetering and they'll be like, no, we're kidding. We're back. I
You
think
think
just
the
a taper, when they're talking, we're going to stop buying so much mortgage bonds and
Yeah.
treasuries. I think that's already having an effect. Like the volatility we're seeing in the markets is a direct result of that sort of nonsense. So I
mean,
think they're just going to back the
maybe.
fuck off. Right.
I think the volatility we're seeing is there's a few things at play there, though. And now we're talking about the stock market volatility, stock market, not volatility in the housing market.
Correct.
So
Right. There's no volatility in
volatility.
the stock market, in the housing market. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
the zero.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's straight up and to the
Very.
right, parabolic up and to the
Let's.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of play there. I think it's been a insane run for the last, let's say, 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like crazy. And everybody's kind of waiting for the music to stop. And so you get some bad geopolitical news, you get something happen, and everybody goes, see, here it is.
Right.
And there's a sell off. And that's why we're seeing these 1,000-point swings in the same day.
Right.
Because there's a big sell off, and then other people are like, nah, we're good. We're not done. You want to sell, I'll buy. And then it runs right back up.
Right.
I do think the market will freak out. Again, we disagree on pace, right? I think the market will freak out. I think the market that it's poised for it and it'll freak out, right? But I don't think it will. I don't think the Fed one rate hike depends how much. I can do a quarter. I can do a
Quarter
half.
point. Let's say 25 bips, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they can do it.
I don't think that's enough to push it.
Of course, no, but
slow down.
Here's why I don't think they can do it, right? Because when the market then takes a dump,
yes,
right, it does 2 things. Number one, it reduces tax receipts.
Well, let's define dump. What do you mean by dump?
1,000 points.
You mean a 10% correction?
Sure,
or
10%. Sure, 10%.
Yeah, I think they could weather that. I don't think. They would be wringing some hands and sipping some expensive.
I don't think they could handle 10% in like a week. Right.
Fair point.
And so if they do a second,
but they are going to cut rates a week later, right? They've got time for the next rate cut, so it will depend on what happens, right?
But I don't. What I'm saying is not about the rates, right? I'm saying it's about the signal, right? If the Fed's really going to try and fight inflation, because that's really why they're doing this, right?
Yes.
Then
but 2 things: one, they want to fight inflation. 2, I do think they want their powder dry if they need to do cuts in the future. Right, so you got to build it back up so you can cut it back.
Yeah, I guess. They could think whatever the hell they want. My point is, this is a direct result of fiscal stimulus, right? And the U.S. government is already broke. It can't. We're already spending over 100% of tax receipts on interest payments.
Anyone listening, like this, it may not be this bad, but go ahead.
Well, no, it is. It just is that bad. We're able to get away with it because we have the world's reserve currency, right? So
we are. The flight to quality is here.
We're the least dirty laundry in the hamper, right? Yes. But if we start raising rates, then basically what I'm saying is that the United States federal government cannot allow rates to go much higher. They can't because they have to spend, right? And they like those boys and girls in Washington are not cutting spending. Like that's just not happening.
Well, I agree with that,
right?
But
so how do you fund it?
How have we funded it for the last?
We've been borrowing like crazy.
Right.
So and monetizing the debt.
At some point, that music does stop. I don't think it stops in 2022 because the Fed raises a quarter. I don't think 2022 is the year the music stops.
No. What I mean, so my point is 2020, if they raised rates, right? The market takes a dump.
Yeah, I don't think a 10% correction is a dump. I think the market is very, I won't call it a bubble, but it's frothy. It's had a hell of a run.
So
A
I don't think it's
10%
frothy.
correction.
I don't think it's frothy. So I don't know if you ever saw the stats. You know, there have been a bunch of guys who came out and looked at like stock market, S&P 500 or NASDAQ, and then divided it by like Fed balance sheet. And what you see is exactly matches. Meaning what we have had is not a stock market run like it's frothy. What we've had is just money printing.
Right, which, okay. But,
so if we stop money printing, then that reverses and it's going to go way the fuck down. My point is, it's going to cause a recession, right?
You think the Fed raising rates, not one hike. You don't think one rate hike causes a recession?
I think one rate hike very well could cause a recession, yeah. Because the market's gotten so addicted. It's so sensitive. Look, we've had 1,000-point swings and Fed hasn't done anything except jawbone.
Right, that's them prepping for the move, right? Like these, to me, so you see these 1,000-point swings as the canary in the coal mine.
I think it's the market calling the Fed's bluff.
Right. And I see this 1,000-point swings as the market getting ready. So
for what?
Maybe for the Fed to start to raise rates. So
but to your point, there are people who bought.
Yeah. So that is my point, right? So like I think a correction is okay. I think the market is overvalued. And I don't think the stock market when we have a 10% correction, it's going to feel really bad. Like I'm sitting here casually in my office at 4:00 on a Friday, right? Feeling fine about it. I won't feel fine when it happens. A 10% correction isn't nothing. That's something meaningful, right? But I don't think that it's as simple as Fed raise rate cause recession. I don't believe that.
Okay, so you don't think there's a recession if the Fed raises rates?
I don't think if the Fed raises rates once for a quarter that there's a recession. Then I got to reevaluate. Right?
How many rate increases?
It depends on what does happen when the Fed raises rates, right? It
makes borrowing more expensive.
Right. No, that is true. But
so companies will not be able to borrow working capital.
Yeah.
Something like a third of the NASDAQ of the stock market are zombie companies who don't have enough cash flow to meet expenses. So they're constantly just rolling over their debt, right? Things like the overnight repo market goes to shit.
Yeah.
Dude, the market's going to collapse. And here's the thing. At a high level, right? If you're going to fight inflation, the only way you can fight inflation is to cause a recession.
Yeah. Well, we may have a debate too on how much of this inflation is real inflation due to stimulus and how much is inflation due to supply chain issues, supply and demand, blah, blah, blah.
And being a faithful Austrian economics guy, I'm like, of course it's about money because inflation anywhere and everywhere is a money printing phenomenon. And that's just, me quoting, what's his name? Milton Friedman, because he's basically like my hero. But I get it. The Keynesian view is like, no, it has to do with whatever, supply chain disruption.
Well, and I feel like people are far too binary about this. They say it's either this or it's either that, right? It's either we have inflation. That's a fact. No one can that's a fact, right? Period. Hard stop. We have inflation. Then some folks are saying, well, it's just we're going to snap back. It's just because of the supply chain. It's just because of all of those things. And then others are saying it's just because of money printing. And I believe the truth is it's some of both. We will have more inflation than we have had since the 70s, right?
Yeah.
And so that's true. And
it's higher than the 70s. It's way higher than the 70s, just being hidden from us, right?
Why is that?
Because the way that we calculate inflation in the 70s, like the method that the government used to calculate inflation, if we were using that same method, our inflation today would be 14.5%.
Huh.
In 1980 and then again in 1990, the Bureau of Labor Statistics changed the way they calculate CPI.
I'll have to look at it. I did not know that.
And here's the interesting thing. The biggest change they did was into calculating cost of housing. Right. So now they use this ridiculous thing called owner's equivalent rent and all this. And then, if you look at actual rent increases According to CPI, it's like 3%. Meanwhile, every rental index we've seen in the industry, like Zillow Rent Index, Apartments.com, it's like 28%. It's like, come on now, where's this 3%? Like, it's nonsense. It's all manipulated.
Yeah. I'll have to look into it, but I don't think the Fed rate raise quarter point in March means we have a recession in May.
No, I don't think it's an instant thing. What I'm saying is, I think that when they do one, though, right, the market will just like stumble. It's not going to collapse with one.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, I think at that point the Fed has to back off.
So I think I thought I nudged you to my side, but maybe I didn't.
No, you didn't. I'm saying this is my prediction. I think they do one, and then they back off.
So really, you think the second one is the one that's going to make the market really freak out?
Correct. I do, and that's only 50 basis points, right?
Yeah, I got to see what happens when they do the one before I've concretized my opinion on what they'll do when they do the second.
So because I think they have no choice but to keep it going, right? Just keep the money printer going.
Well, sure, I guess, but that's got to stop at some point, right? At some point, you've got to figure out how to weather the pain.
Yeah,
you're either gonna, if you don't take some of your medicine now, it's gonna hurt a lot later.
Yeah.
So why don't you think we had inflation after all the money print? And I know we've done a lot more since, and they're not highly comparative.
Yeah.
The balance sheet has exploded over the last 3 years. I get all that. But why don't you think we had inflation after the last big round of money printing?
Well, I didn't say that. No, I think we had massive inflation.
No, you do?
Oh, yeah. And I think the inflation numbers have been manipulated, right?
Okay.
So, and I think in a real way, and I really do mean this, right?
Yeah.
I think looking at home price appreciation is a better indication of inflation than CPI. And if you look at what home prices have done over the last 10 years, right? So since we came out of the bubble, right, global financial crisis, and then we had that period, and starting in like around 2012, 2013, home price have done, it's just been parabolic. It's been straight up and to the right. And we were talking about this recently, how there are realtors now working who have never experienced a buyer's market.
That's true.
Right?
No, that's true. Yeah.
And we've had this consistent, and every year it's like a new record, right?
Yes. Especially the last three, right?
Especially the last three, but even before, it's not like in 2018 or 2019 we were talking about, man, inventory is so plentiful, right? I mean, if we remember 2019.
Inventory was plentiful.
No.
It was almost balanced. It was close to balance.
It was not close to being balanced.
It was starting to slow down.
Dude, there's no effing way. I remember I don't know if you were there actually. I remember having this debate with Dwiggins at Inman Disconnect. So when was that? Like 2017, 2018? Yeah. Talk about how we're in this frothy seller's market. And he was like, look, when the market swings back, because it always does, then we're going to see all these things change. I'm like, when's the market going to change, swing back? I remember having an argument in like 2017, 2018.
But so the market, what, in your opinion, the market wasn't slowing down before pandemic?
No.
Pre-pandemic?
No. 2019 was a record year.
Yeah.
First quarter of 2022 was a record quarter, right?
Yes.
So
where, though?
Across the country.
No. But record what?
A record high prices, a record low inventory. The housing market was insane first quarter of 2020.
I'll send you some stuff. I don't think that's... Okay. I think margins and appreciation, that's true. But I think you were starting to see inventory creep back into the marketplace. It was.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have the numbers. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm saying it's like home price. And again, there was all these like bidding wars going on. Like,
Yeah. I'm in no way saying it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm saying it was, and yes, people had record quarters and profits. And
the reason why I say this, right after the whole COVID thing popped, right? I did this huge research study, and I called, I don't know, like 20 or 30 different top agent teams. I think I might have spoken to you then as well, and just what's going on in your local market. And every single one basically said the following: I was having a record quarter.
Yes, that's true.
And then everything got shut down.
Right. Yes.
So I was having a record quarter. So first quarter 2020 was super hot. Obviously, COVID happens, lockdowns happen, real estate's basically banned. So went through like the 6-week period of just like this dramatic, like
yeah,
off the cliff.
And then it picked right back up.
Right back up.
But with even less inventory than
Correct.
before COVID.
Correct.
Right?
So all of a sudden, starting in July, we see this parabolic.
Right.
My point simply is it isn't as if 2017, 18, 19 weren't hot sellers markets.
Agreed.
Right. So, and then if we trace it back, I'm saying if we go back to all the way to like 2013 when we turned the corner from out of the housing bubble.
Yeah.
Dude, housing has been straight up and to the right. Now, why? Yeah. Because guess when we started money printing? Because of the global financial crisis. Right?
Yes, but prices for real estate were also at a historic low. You taking one thing and linking them as highly correlative or causal is incredibly dangerous.
I mean, look, right? as a worshiper of Milton Friedman, in Austrian economics, I kind of have to.
You can't shoot the arrow, then paint the bullseye around it. Like that's just saying,
I can't say I follow Milton Friedman's monetary theory.
Yes.
Where inflation is always and exclusively a money printing issue.
But so all those years we weren't printing as much money. We still had price appreciation on homes.
But back then it was like 1%, 1.5%, except for the bubble, right? Which was a unique, special deal, right? But yeah, I mean, that's again, I'm just giving you.
Okay. I think there are a whole lot of factors that have had to do with it, not just one, but I do admit that is one of the reasons, right? That we have seen home price appreciation. But you had historic low inventories, you had tons of pent up demand, you had builders basically slam on the brakes. There was no new home inventory.
There's no doubt the bubble hurt,
right? Yeah. So there's a lot that's gone into creating that up and to the right, more than just money printing, in my humble opinion.
Okay.
My no whiskeyed humble opinion.
I haven't had whiskey either.
I know.
This might be more fun. Our next one, I promise.
We're
going to do some whiskey. We're going to do some water. But all right. So it's going to be an interesting thing. Like, it's not like I'm hoping for that to happen, right?
No,
it's just,
I know that. And I'm not trying to sit here like Pollyanna, rose colored.
I know.
I'm talking about a 10% correction like it's no big deal. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's going to be a lot of layoffs.
That'll hurt.
Right.
That'll hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will suppress demand. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have headwinds on demand for residential real estate, but candidly, we need them. Now, I don't mean that as an industry person. As the industry, I always want more people to buy more homes and sell more homes. But I don't think we're going to fix the supply side of the equation. We're not going to, with speed, unlock more inventory. Boomers are living longer. They're staying in their homes. People are bunkered down after COVID. They've sort of landed where they're going to land. They're not interested in necessarily moving. I think for the health of the real estate market, some buyer headwinds are an okay thing to slow the pace of appreciation. Because we really do need the pace of appreciation to slow. However we get there to have a healthy real estate market.
So when you say appreciation slow, do you still expect it to be above the nominal CPI?
That's a good question.
Because that's connected to then what do you think nominal CPI be? So if Fed raises rates, tapers, nominal CPI in December was 7%.
Yeah. I do think housing appreciation will be comparable or slightly above.
Slightly above. Right. So in other words, housing is an inflation hedge. It's going to stay above nominal inflation.
Yeah.
I think we're slightly above real inflation. Right. So I think real inflation last year, again, the stats were around 14.5%, maybe 15%. Home prices went up 18%. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So even if they raise rates, if nominal inflation, let's say it's 5%, the truth is probably 10%. So I think we see double-digit home price appreciation. And you mix that, though, and here's where things get really tricky. You mix that with...
how do you just think we get there because of inflation?
Yeah.
And not demand and the other factors?
I don't think none of that... I don't think any of that stuff matters, actually. Right? Because I actually don't think we've had a hot housing market. Right? I think what we've had is just consistent dollar devaluation. Right. So I looked up this chart recently. I found a website. It's fascinating called Priced in Gold, right?
Okay.
And
is it on the dark web or the normal web?
It's a normal web. In fact, let me see if I can pull it up real quick while we're talking. Home prices.
I feel like you just say these sentences to just like make my face turn red. You said we don't have a hot housing market. We've had, what'd you say? Say it again.
Dollar devaluation.
Yeah.
All right. So check this out. Right. All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna just how do I do this? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Can you see that?
Okay. Yep.
Let me zoom in. So this is a website called pricedingold.com.
Yes.
And this is Case-Shiller Home Price Index if you were to price it in gold, in ounces of gold. And you see from 1985 to now. Starting in so, obviously 2010, we're looking at like the bubble, right?
Uh-huh.
We start turning the corner around 2013 and it's up, but it's right. I mean, it's relatively flat. It's actually cheaper today than it was in like 1997, 98. I mean, 2017, 2018.
Explain to me how this works. Like when you say home price to gold.
In other words, you're to buy homes not using US dollars, but in ounces of gold. Right.
Got it. So
because gold is an inflation hedge as well.
You're using this to build the case for dollar printing, and that's
correct.
Why.
That what we've seen is not homes prices going up. What we've seen is dollar value dropping, dollar devaluation.
You need more dollars to get the same thing.
Right. And the issue then becomes, at the same time, wages haven't gone up. So we printed all this money, right? But it's all gone into like stock market, it's gone into bonds, it's gone into financial instruments as opposed to like people's pockets.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, why we're having such a huge problem with things like housing affordability, right? Because frankly, housing affordability is not impacting, it is, but the impact to people like you and me are far less. Why? Because we already own houses.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, we're going to sell the house we already own, which went up 100% to buy another house that went up 100%.
Buy boats and
or you have stock, whatever. I have stock options and it went up 10x. It's the working, 30 somethings, like they're fucked. Why? Because their wages haven't gone up 18% a year.
Yeah,
12% a year, right?
I agree. There is that erosion of the middle class. No one would debate that, right?
Totally.
So that's a fact. I also think sometimes we get sort of a coastal bias on this. There's still a lot of parts of the country where it's affordable, and we're seeing a migration pattern to those states where it is.
Which is making things worse, right?
Why?
Because now you have people in like St. Louis and Tampa who weren't dealing with some of the insane home price appreciation, and then they're having coastal wealthier people moving in. Actually, right here, I'm in Vegas. I'm not coast. I'm in Vegas. We're being invaded by Southern California.
You're coast adjacent. I mean, you're real close.
But I'm serious, like, dude, it's like every week you'll hear some story about I sold my house in LA for 1.8 million, and now I can buy twice the home in Vegas for 700,000. Longtime Vegas people like 700,000 for that that's insane. But to the LA guys, like that's super cheap. It's right. It's having that impact, and we know it is. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. So I knew we were going to argue about economics to some extent, But look,
it was easy. You and I can say hi, and right after that, we're going to debate.
Hi, let's talk about the economy.
Let's go.
But the other thing that I thought we would discuss is I don't know how we got on this topic, Keith, but we're starting to talk about Metaverse somehow. And
I've been on a little mental walkabout, trying to, as a 50-year-old guy who is tech good, not great, trying to wrap my head around the Metaverse and not be that stodgy old guy who says, what the hell is this, right? And so as I've contemplated it, and it helps that I've got a 9-year-old little girl, who likes Roblox and enjoys virtual experiences. I do think the Metaverse, real estate, quote unquote, right, in the Metaverse, like we say, well, how it's just fake. It's fake land, right? How is that ever worth anything, right? Well, there's parts of San Francisco that used to be swamp. There's parts of this all over this country that used to not be land that are now land, right? Mm-hmm. I get you can see it and touch it, so it's not completely the same thing. But we've manufactured land for a long, long time.
Sure.
And so I do think that my daughter is 9, right? When she's, I don't know, 19 or 21 and graduating college, she takes her first job.
So 10 years from now.
Yeah. 10, 11 years from now, right? Yeah. Let's go 15 just for
sure.
So the math works for my daughter's age. She's graduating from college. She takes her first job, and it's some national company where there's a corporate office, but also a lot of people work from home, and it's flex work and all the things that we're experiencing right now. Well, they'll probably have some sort of new hire orientation in the metaverse, right?
Probably.
And if she goes to work for Apple, Apple will have some glitzy campus in the metaverse, and that's where she'll go. Right now, if you go there, and it looks really weird. It looks a lot like grown-up Roblox, right?
Yeah,
If you go to the marketplace, at the top is some new outfit for your avatar, right? And then you've got to scroll way down, and you can see where lots are on the metaverse that you can purchase.
Right.
And so that's weird, right? And then you go in there, and you just kind of run around.
Right.
And so, but someday someone might want to advertise their company there, right? Someday someone might attend a real estate school in the metaverse, and it might make sense for me to have my company branded, and you're going, to the arena that you're going to is the Nexthome Arena or whatever, right? Like, I don't know how it all plays out, but I know that my 9-year-old has a great time with 2 of her friends on FaceTime while in Roblox, which is a version of the metaverse, right? Now, what's interesting, though, she has the most fun when there's human interaction over a screen with her real friends while they're in this alternate environment. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
How all that's going to play out, I'm unsure. But I know that this generation of kids coming up, right? Not just 9, but like 19-year-olds. There's, I think we're talking about, online games and huge worlds and, people spending hours and hours and hours in this non-real world and getting real value from that experience. Right?
Yeah.
Real pleasure and joy and all of those.
Not only that, but I think they'll form real human relationships.
Yeah, right. They've made real friends.
Right. So I think I convinced Sunny that the metaverse is real and it should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
She just hates it.
Oh.
She's fair. All these kids aren't going to know how to interact with human beings, and they're not going to know how to, I'm like,
but I mean, isn't that what like our parents said about us? Probably. Right? Because I had Atari, right? Yeah. I'm that old. I remember my family couldn't afford it, but there was one kid up the street who could. Yeah. We were at his house all summer trying to, taking turns playing Pitfall. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, every generation thinks the generation after is like complete, lost.
The end of the world, right?
It's the end of the world. So I'm sure there's some of that fuddery going on for us.
When I start to think about it through a real estate, so okay, we agree. Wow, we agree on this. Is awesome.
I told you we agree. So wait, before we move off this, then here's the thing, Keith. Y'all need to set up a Nexthome corporate office like right now.
I know. Well, I mean,
y'all need to get some land in Decentraland. Y'all need to get on that sandbox, something.
I would like a little more clarity on who the winner will be.
I know,
right?
Me too.
Because I don't think there's going to be 10 metaverses. I think there's going to be 1, maybe 2.
My personal theory is I think it'll become like a hub and spoke type model. Right?
Maybe, but someone will gobble up, right? I want to. I need a little
entry point, and then all these worlds will spin off of that central world. Yeah.
So we've had some high level discussions about it. I definitely am the one who's done the most meditating on it. In the company. We've even got a set piece as part of our upcoming convention on it, right? Because if you start to think about transacting residential real estate in the metaverse, maybe it's not residential real estate, maybe it's metaverse real estate, right?
Yeah.
It gets weird fast.
Yeah.
It gets super weird, super fast.
Because it's not really real estate. I mean,
no, right. It's fake estate.
It is. It's
pseudo real estate.
It's a digital asset, right?
But do you need a chain of title? How are you going to do that?
Yeah,
right?
It's all written on the blockchain. I don't think that's going to be real easy. But I'm saying it's still not. It's still not realistic because there's no physicality there, right? There's no space. So I say this from someone who, like, I actually spent 36 hours straight doing a raid, in an MMO. Like, I'm that guy. I know I'm 50.
Smashing Mountain Dew and pizza.
Yeah, like, like, I know the young kids, like, they have it way over me. I get it. But, I am that guy who spent hours upon hours upon hours in these virtual worlds. And I built real relationships, had real friendships with people whose names I don't know.
Right.
That's the important thing, right?
Right. It never moved online to offline?
It never moved off. It moved offline with one person.
Okay.
Right? And, he ended up being like a former soldier who was going through really tough times, going through a divorce, all like crazy shit. Right? Yeah. But these are real people. Yeah. Totally. That. So I'm that guy. But even me, I look at it and go, yeah, but running, like, so you make your character run, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not running. I am not out of breath.
No,
I'm just pressing a button and my little avatar is running.
Little arms get going, right?
Yeah,
right,
so it's something, but it's not.
Well, I don't think you'll have virtual workouts, but
correct.
I do think it will be a meeting and gathering place
for sure.
people.
For sure. Which is why I'm saying I think companies, and I think I wrote this in a post, like I think the future of the office is in the metaverse. Right.
Yeah. No, I think there's some truth to that. I do. I'm a little torn on this, right? I believe it's a thing and I believe it will be real. Mm-hmm. And I also believe that there's a reason that watching a YouTube video of a concert isn't as good as watching a live stream of a concert.
Okay.
Right? Which also isn't as good as going to a concert.
Okay, talk to me. Why?
I think we've spent way more time around campfires than we have around computer screens. I think we're evolutionarily based to have shared experiences in physical proximity to other humans.
So I totally buy it in terms of going to a concert versus a YouTube. But I guess I'm trying to say, what's live stream of a concert versus YouTube?
Well, live stream's a little better, right? Because I know it's real. I'm not watching something that happened a year ago.
Okay.
I think the psychology of knowing this person is live right now singing.
Okay.
And I'm having a different caliber of experience because I know that.
Interesting. Right? Okay. All right.
Right. Like if I go to the Metaverse someday, I happen to be a Raiders fan, long suffering, right? And if they have a pre-recorded video of Charles Woodson playing in the Metaverse, that's kind of cool, right?
Sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But if Charles Woodson is going to be in the Metaverse answering questions, hanging out, talking about what it was like to be a defensive back in the NFL,
right?
Well, that's way more cool. Now, even cooler is going to his winery in Napa and sitting at a table with him and having him talk to me about it. That's the pinnacle, right?
Right.
But those are three different shared experiences, quote unquote.
Right.
And they have different levels of intimacy associated with it and different levels of pleasure derived from just because it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
If ever.
Yeah.
Before we're just past like interacting with humans as human beings. So tell Sonny not to worry too much.
I mean, honestly, man, this is where I don't know myself either. Right. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I think about is the fact that I think you could get vision and sight and sound pretty nailed on in the metaverse. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could imagine future technology, where the Oculus is not this giant, nasty thing, maybe it's like, some little Apple, like.
It's like wraparound sunglasses.
No, like a direct brain interface. Like, I just stick it on my head and then, takes over my sound. Like, I don't know, right? I could see something like that. The thing I think the metaverse will have the toughest time, though, is the other three senses, right? So touch, smell, and taste. And I do wonder, like, when I think about the concert, to me, that's the example I used, right?
Yeah.
I love Alison Krauss.
Yeah.
Love Alison Krauss. I've seen her live. I think I did like a Grateful Dead type of deal, like followed her
around the country.
I've done it, right? Having said that, fact of the matter is I've never been within 100 feet of Alison Krauss.
No, right.
Do you know what I mean? So I see her on stage, but it's still like quite a ways away.
No,
right?
Even if you're in the lawn,
right?
and you're looking at a screen.
Right.
That's not wildly different than looking at a screen in your room.
Exactly. Right. It's not wildly different.
But the shared experiences.
Right. But so that I thought about the shared experience. I said, okay, what if there's a metaverse and I'm in a stadium, right, in the metaverse, and I'm surrounded by other avatars.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I think the thing that's still missing though is this sort of a unexplainable, visceral, and I think it's like literally sense of smell and taste, like pheromones in the air, the smell of the crowd sweat.
I totally agree.
I think that is going to be really hard to replicate, right?
I don't think it's. I mean, anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
In dollars, and
we're going to be living the Matrix, and
I'll be long gone by the time you figure that out, right? So, I think it will have its place. So you start
here's
to
the
think
thing.
about.
So before we go on though, here's the thing. When I thought about that, it's okay. Concerts, that shared experience. Okay, we're not going to have that. Mm-hmm. Do I really want that?
But I think you will, right? Like, so just to pause there, right?
Yeah.
You will. It just won't be as cool, right?
Yeah.
So like,
it'll be 60%, right?
Yeah. My daughter's 9, right?
Yeah.
Like, so someday, some 9-year-old will be able to go see whatever the new JoJo Siwa is.
Yeah.
Right. She'll be doing a concert at the Rob Hahn Auditorium.
Right.
And you will buy a ticket to go there with your friends, and you'll meet online, and they'll probably have FaceTime up on the upper left, and they'll be talking to each other and seeing each other's real faces while they go to the JoJo Siwa concert at the Rob Hahn Auditorium in the Metaverse. That will probably happen.
Right.
And you'll pay for a ticket to go.
And you'll pay for a ticket. But here's like, this is what I was getting at. Like, you'll pay for a ticket, it'll be like $10 though. Instead of it being $100,
$110,
right? Well, $110 is if you want to go live, right, to where the person is actually going to be. Like, But the second thing about was the specific area where I don't know that I want the sense of smell, taste, and that is the office.
Yeah,
I don't know that I need to smell my coworkers' pheromones. Right, we're just coworkers, right? As long as the vision and the sound is perfect. And here's the stuff that I think what I wrote about is, again, we have to advance technology forward, right?
Yeah.
Say we have super realistic graphics, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of it being like we're going to open FaceTime so we can see, look, no, the metaverse is photorealistic, right?
Right.
We can see each other's expressions. So like when you just raise your eyebrow like that, I can see that, and we're meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know that I need to be able to slap the coworker on the back. Do you? That's I feel like the office might be the one place where the metaverse really does explode.
I think there's a degree of truth to that. Right. I do. I agree with you. The office of 50 years from now will look incredibly very different than the office of 50 years ago. Right? They won't be. That'll be a big. The office of today looks different than the office of 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, there are companies who said they will never do remote employees that are now like, I guess this works.
Yeah.
I guess this works okay.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting, even inside of our company, what we found is there is a certain amount of they miss being around each other.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so, companies that have some sort of not completely distributed, right? Like most of the company that I work for, we live within an hour of Pleasanton, California, right? And so as we think about just work today, and this would be true even no matter how synthesized the metaverse gets, you're gonna see more hang sessions, right? You're gonna see more company picnics and times where we get together to augment that very lifelike photorealistic experience that we're having in our work metaverse.
I actually think it'll be even better because right now, let's say you show up physically at the office in Pleasanton, right? Mm-hmm. Lunchtime comes around. Yeah, let's go grab a bite. Now, maybe that's a wrong example because I think there's something fundamentally human about breaking bread together. Yeah. So maybe not that, like coffee break in the afternoon,
Yeah. Well, or just but I mean,
the hangout period,
the office pop by, right?
Yeah, what I'm saying is like that's sort of limited in the real world, right? Mm-hmm. In the metaverse, like, hey, we got 15 minutes. Let's go jump into the space sim, and we can go play some exciting ass game, right?
I mean,
and bond
maybe,
that way.
maybe.
I'm just saying, like, once you go into the virtual world, all sorts of different types of entertainment that don't involve taste, smell, and touch
Yeah, yeah.
are
But
possible.
I don't
So
find myself. Rarely am I like jumping on a Zoom for fun, right?
exactly my point. But if you're already in the virtual office,
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm
Yeah.
saying is the difference is you're already there. Like you have logged in, right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
into the office. So you show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and just like you would in the real world, you're there till 5.
Mm.
Right? So if somebody wants to do a little pop by, they could swing by your office, knock on your virtual door, right? And
Yeah.
you could like come on in. I've got time, and then hey, I have a quick question, blah blah blah, and then they go away. Or do you know what I mean? Like I think that's the office that I'm imagining, and it's probably gonna be way different than that as well, right?
Yeah. I think it. I don't know what it'll be like.
Who
I really
knows?
don't. And I know. I believe there'll be one.
I
That
agree.
like I got that.
Yeah.
I'm there, and I'm starting to try to parse out
Right.
what it could be like. What I want to know is how is an industry like how is it going to be transacted?
I think it will
Like,
be transacted through decentralized DeFi networks. The way it is being done now is just like our whole idea of like a web page is gonna go away.
but like you believe the metaverse is a thing,
Yeah,
right? You're in it and around it more than most.
yeah.
Do you feel comfortable buying a lot on the metaverse today?
Do I personally?
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the price.
So you would feel comfortable in like going into it, which one to go to, looking at the map and evaluating how to determine value on
Yeah.
your own.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not that. I think it's different. Let me put it this way. I think buying digital land in the metaverse
Yeah.
would look a lot more like a real specialized commercial real estate site selection team.
Mm,
Because
maybe. Yeah.
it's not like real world land, right? Like
No, for
with this
sure. Yeah.
house, I need someone to tell me about the way it's constructed, what's the
Totally.
pipe like, all that.
Yeah.
In the virtual world, the only thing I care about what's the traffic.
But I kind of, but how do you even, I guess what I'm saying is I believe the metaverse is a thing,
Yeah.
right? And I've spent hours
Yeah.
thinking about it
Yeah.
and in there trying to run around, play around, do
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
To have experiences in it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the best one to buy on. I have no idea. I can't tell you why you would pick one lot over a different lot,
Right.
right? Like here's where everyone spawns or whatever, right? And so
Right.
you want to be close to that, I think,
Right.
because there's
Right.
a higher probability that they'll walk by.
Right.
But like, how big is the right size? I don't know. There's these little boxes and then there's these huge boxes, right?
Right.
Is it better to have a huge box further away because you can put in roller coasters and clowns making virtual animal
Right.
balloons, or
Right.
is it better to have a small lot close? I have no idea.
Correct.
And
Right.
so people will need service to figure that out. The average
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. But that's what I
Right.
mean by like a specialized site selection.
Yeah.
So when you think
Yeah.
about the way that retailers do site selection today, they have these commercial realtors who know all this stuff. They have STD,
Yeah.
they have all this stuff. And they're like, look, foot traffic looks like this. Here's the demographic of the shoppers within a 30-mile zone and blah, blah, blah. You should
Yeah.
locate your retail store right here.
Here. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
going to be like that, except it's going to be all virtual. It's all going to be digital data. And the
And
thing is
you
that
think
that data will be online somewhere,
so?
right?
You think a vast majority, and I think I agree with you if you think this, but
Yeah.
a vast majority of the metaverse will be a commercialized.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Because you can't actually live there.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like when you think
So
about
we
it.
won't be building virtual residential neighborhoods
No,
where
no.
what we would have is a clubhouse, right? Like
Right,
you and I would build a real estate nerd clubhouse,
right,
and you and me and three
right.
other super nerds would go hang out there.
Now,
But
having said that,
yeah,
among all of my friends,
hmm
I think I'm the only one who's ever owned a virtual house.
do tell, sir.
I owned
You
a
buried the
virtual.
lead. You
I've
buried
owned
the
a
lead in this website.
virtual castle, basically, in this one game, this one MMO I used to play. Right.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
you
it was
like
a.
Was it like a prestige thing? Was it
Yeah, because the way they worked it was you can buy your own house, but it was very expensive.
Right.
In-game currency, which really had no meaning. So to have one meant that you had whatever billion gold coins, or so it was a show-off prestige thing, and then you could decorate it.
Spend real world dollars to get it, or you could.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. However, I may or may not, because I can't confirm or deny, have sold that account.
Oh.
That had the virtual castle, as well as all sorts of powerful magical items, all sorts of things. Cool, I may have sold that for real dollars.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that, as a residential real estate guy,
right.
I think today, anyway, as I think about the metaverse, it's more of a commercial transaction than it is of a future residential real estate transaction. It's a brave new world.
I'll tell you what, the skill, I think some of the skill will be transferable in other words, what realtors, like the top agents, are really good at are their, they're connectors, right? They know everybody. They're social, they have the personality, they have the gift of gab. That's probably going to be useful,
Yeah, and that service mentality, right?
Right. But the service mentality, like, what are we talking about, really?
No, look, people are going to have massive questions. This is completely brand new, right? Mm-hmm. So, like I said,
but I'm saying 10 years from now, when it's now a given, it's accepted.
But I think 10 years from now, there'll be I don't know what it'll be, right? Like, we're a long time in residential real estate, you can touch and feel. And so we discovered over time, it was better to bifurcate it and say, okay, commercial is different than resi. Right. Let's have two different specialists for that, kind of, right? I mean, your license can do both, but we're really it organically sort of separated it.
Right.
And I believe there'll be a third version, right?
The virtual.
An expert in the virtual art of residential.
That's what I'm saying, though. I feel like the skills or knowledge in the virtual side is going to have nothing whatsoever to do with skills or knowledge in real estate. Like, for example.
No, they have to.
Why?
What do you mean? What do you mean why?
Like things like, I know the weather patterns, or, there's no weather in the metaverse.
Well, no, my point is
construction techniques. There's no construction techniques. It's all virtual code. What's far more important might be things like on-chain data analytics, right?
Yeah, well, then I would say there's very little translatable other than human skills, right?
That's my point, right? Yeah. So what translates is the gift of
it's brand new. Like, no one has any idea.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you got one human trying to buy something from another human.
Correct.
And usually we need a human to help us sort that out.
Correct.
Right.
So I think, if I think about it, it's like yacht brokers, or, there are these guys who, like, their business is finding wealthy people unique cars.
Yeah.
Let's say our friend James wants a 1973 Porsche.
Really hyper unique. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there are guys who specialize. Oh, I know where that is. And
you think it's going to be that specialized market, or is it businesses big and small someday will have a presence in the metaverse?
That's a great question. I don't know.
I
don't know. And then, like, you want to think about some further crazy things, like all of the restrictions and all the limitations of the metaverse are created by the metaverse operator. They're not natural laws of nature. Right. So this idea that the interior square footage must be smaller than the exterior square footage.
Well, now you're going to melt people's brains.
Right. But when you think about it, there's nothing that says it has to be that way.
So you can walk in and it's this huge, little lot, but you walk in, it's this massive.
You open the door and all of a sudden you're inside this infinite world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless the programmers design the world that way, there's no reason why it has to be that way, right?
True.
There's no reason why gravity has to exist.
Well, now we're going to get really weird.
So, and this is the stuff that I think, unless you've played these games, it's hard to kind of wrap your mind around. But the fact is, that's what happens. Because once in a while, you'll have the game designers put you in some dungeon, and all of a sudden, up is down and left is right. Just to fuck with you in the concept of the game, and you realize, the laws of physics don't apply here.
Yeah, they don't have to.
They don't have to. It's all code. Yeah. So it's gonna be real interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, that's clearly the future. And then who knows? Maybe we won't have to worry about it because, by after that, our children will never have babies again, and
Oh no, that's gonna be. We'll do that on the next. We'll do that on our
next
next
episode. Next
That's our
episode.
next debate.
Yeah, what's interesting. So let's try and like one serious topic. I've been having a lot of conversations, especially after I kind of announced my pivot. I'm moving much more into this because I think it's really significant. Mm-hmm. The amount of hunger for out of the real estate industry specifically about what all this stuff means. Like what does crypto, what does blockchain, what does metaverse, what do NFTs mean for me, mean for my business as a realtor is huge. And I think it's growing.
Agreed. Well, I think I've heard this analogy made before, so I didn't originate it, but it's, I remember when not having an email was normal, right?
Right.
And I remember sending one for the first time.
Right.
It
was weird. Yeah.
Kind of this weird experience, and no one really got it. And what do you mean, check your email? Check my email. Like, what is that? Right. And then pretty quickly it became ubiquitous, standard operating procedure. In fact, a preferred mode of communication for a lot of folks. Right. And so, or the internet's another really good example, maybe even a better one for the metaverse anyway. Right. The internet was sort of this weird thing, right? And then AOL came along and made it sort of a little more accessible, and then now it's Google's a verb. You can do that to something, right? Like so, but there was a time where it didn't exist, and we just don't remember that, right?
Right.
So I think that the metaverse will be some version of one of those two things, where it's real in crypto and right. So we're at this very early phase of several of these things.
What I'm saying is interesting is this, Keith. I was around for that first .com, right? So were you. Yeah. We're both old enough.
Yep.
As an aside, by the way, I don't know if the movie You Got Mail.
Yeah.
Have you shown your daughter that movie?
No.
I'd be real curious. What her reaction? Because you remember the whole premise behind it was remember those AOL discs and they're communicating over email, but it's like. I'd kind of be curious what like a new generation that grew up with the technology we have now, if they look at that and go, like, you know what I mean? Would they look at it the same way we look at telegraphs? When you see movies from the 30s and people are, right? It'd be kind of curious.
Sure,
but anyway, so I remember that. And what's different now is the level of curiosity and interest in learning more is not like anything I saw in .com 1.0. I don't remember realtors in .com 1.0 having this hunger. Like, I don't know what this stuff is. I don't know what this real email is. I don't know what this stuff is. But, man, I want to know more. Now what I'm getting is I don't know what any of this stuff means, but I want to know more. I find that really interesting.
I think the whole world, that's probably not fair, definitely the United States has become, like, if you take the level of technological comfort and sophistication in, say, 1980, and compare that just 40 years later. I mean, the comfort level with technology has exploded, right?
That's true.
I still make fun of my dad when he tries to send a text because it takes him 17 minutes, right? So that's fine.
That's true.
My dad's 71. He hasn't quite had the same experience over the last 40 years, right?
That's true.
But our comfort level with technology is unprecedented.
Right.
And so our ability to see or want to sort of absorb technology, sort of you had the quick and the dead back in the old gunfighter days, right? And what we've had is sort of the accept technology or die, right? And so the people who are left are the ones who really have gotten comfortable with technology as a thing.
Right.
And so they see the new thing coming and they want to try to figure out how to
more.
They want to try and figure out. So I think I agree with you completely on that.
Yeah. And I wonder what the best way of doing. I mean, there are a bunch of like real blockchain crypto experts. There are some real estate experts.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, so, and I guess I'm asking because, as Nexthome, like, do you guys think about, hey, we need to do like basics of blockchain, basics of crypto, like, not even this will apply to your life. It's just, no. There's just this is what it is.
Like, I mean, I won't say that we're having, regular strategic meetings I am the one who is mostly, like, I've had some conversations and some meetings about putting transactions on chain, right?
Ooh.
Right? Or tokenizing your real estate transaction. So that it's there. Now, today, what value is that? I don't know. Not a ton, candidly. But probably gets us some headlines. That's cool, I guess. But more importantly, if it does become a thing and, we're the company who's been doing it for 5 years, right? Then we're ahead of the curve, right? So I've had some discussions around that. We've kicked it around.
I guess I was wondering more whether your agents or your franchisees are coming to you guys with questions like, hey, what is this blockchain thing?
I literally just got an email today. This isn't on blockchain, but I literally just got an email today on we should put together some training on real estate in the metaverse today.
Oh, geez.
So it's kind of hitting this place where there is going to be, you end up with these, I don't know, industry luminaries, right?
Yeah.
They really do have great knowledge base.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll use a name. I think Mike Delpreet, and he's done some great work on iBuyers and some other stuff having to do with the industry. And iBuyers kind of came in as a thing, and he kind of positioned himself as the industry guy for that.
Yeah.
And he's done a great job, right? And built himself as sort of the siren song if you want to know what's going on in that space. I don't think we've figured out who that person is yet for crypto and for blockchain and or blockchain and the metaverse. That person hasn't emerged yet, but they will. I believe that. I don't want to do that. That does not sound interesting to me, but someone will.
I don't know, man. I think you might be the ideal person, because we'll see. It's probably not me. I will say that because I tend to.
Well, you think the world's going to end before it'll ever mature? So.
No, I think.
I know you don't. I'm just kidding.
The world will be fine. Like so Ray Dalio, the book that I was telling you about, right?
Yes.
As he points out, if you look at human history over 500 years, everything is straight up and to the right.
Yeah.
Like everything, productivity, income. Life expectancy.
Life is way better than it was 500 years ago.
Right. It's so over, and it's like a straight line, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, but if you look at it more granularly, it's like World War II,
Yeah. Black Plague. Right?
And then like Black Plague and Genghis Khan. Like there's some periods where it's really bad.
Some rough patches.
Yeah, but in the long run, it's all progress. It's all good, right?
I agree.
So that's in the long picture.
What a pleasant way to put a bow on this conversation.
That's right. Because we are pleasant, optimistic people. See, everyone thinks I'm like this doom bot. I'm like, no, man, I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. Just because I think there's going to be violent revolution in the United States in the next 10 years doesn't mean life's not going to be better on the other side of it.
Okay.
Oh, man. Hey, Keith, thanks so much. Hey, so what did we not talk about that we should have talked about?
I can't think of anything that we haven't talked about that we should that's interesting, right? Like there's other stuff that's out there, but it's been tried through and tread through, and
cool.
Or people are sick of hearing about it. I think we've hit the hot topics, at least that are in my world right now.
Yeah. And then I'm sure we'll find something else to argue about, and I'll have you back on, and we'll argue about that. I think you need to launch a podcast, and I'll come on yours, and then we'll argue about some shit on yours. How about
okay,
that?
All right, we can cross-pollinate our podcast.
That's right, baby. That's right.
All right.
If people want to find you and they're not Nexthome, so they don't already know where to find you, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. It's Keith Robinson because I was early. You can find me on Instagram. I think it's Keith Robinson _Nexthome or something like that. I don't know. I'm not that hard to find. You look for
Keith Robinson.
If you really want to. Yep.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. I had a good time. I appreciate you. All right,
and
brother.
I will now drink this now that we are done. And you should go grab one, and I'll think of you while I'm doing that. All right?
I'm on my way.
All right.
I'm on my way.
All right,
brother.
Keith. All right. Bye.